Bonjour everyone, I am Anne-Lise Cailliez and welcome to Parlez-Vous CEO, where we teach the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Hello, bonjour, hello, and welcome to another episode of Palais-Vous CEO. My name is Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I am your host. For those who are just joining the podcast, we're Anne-Lise marketing partners who specialize in helping female-led businesses scale their revenue. And if you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around. If you want a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the DMs. So today is our second episode on our special mental health series with Dr. T. Hi, Dr. T.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you with me again today and share so many mental health tips with our audience. So, Dr. T, you are a psychologist based in New York, you are a writer, you are an entrepreneur, and you're also a kick-ass CrossFitter.
Yeah, so you say. Yeah.
And so today I want to do a special format because as I've been working more and more with female entrepreneurs over the years, I always get the same type of questions among top performing and high achieving female business owners and founders. So I have 10 questions that I would love to dive in with you today and hoping that will help our audience because this has been throughout the 20 years that I've been in business, the questions I get asked all the time as a coach, as a marketer, and as a female entrepreneur. So are you down, Dr. T?
I am down. Let's go. Shoot.
All right. So first question. So somebody from my audience sent me this question. Why do I feel guilty for wanting more when I already have enough?
So guilt is a very interesting experience, right? It's an emotional experience that really governs and can govern what you do and what you don't do because there's an attachment to other people associated with it as well. And granted, it could be associated with other people, but it can also be associated with circumstances. Really, how I view it, it's almost as a part of a manipulation strategy, either from the system, so the own personal system, or an external system, whether it's an institute, a society, or family members, as a manipulation to create some sort of behavior, whether it's behavior pro the system, like the family system or whatever system you're a part of, or the individual. So when I say system, it kind of goes into an external system or the internal system. So guilt is can be a really powerful motivator for you to take action on something. So when we're talking about guilt, it's a way of having you do something, either do something you want to do because the experience of guilt creates an opposite, it's almost like a reaction. So I feel bad for not visiting my mom, so I'm going to visit my mom. To some extent, there could be motivation towards doing the thing that you actually do want to do, which is visit your mom. In the sense of an entrepreneur, it can go either way based on whether it's the guilt towards something pulling you outside of the business or the guilt of something pulling you back into the business. Talking about enough, it's also an internal measure, right? So we're looking at it from the lens or the standpoint of how you personally define enough. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. What I have more, what I find harder to understand is what you call manipulation. You say it's a manipulation, let's say, from the family. Can you talk more about why you think it's it's a manipulation, and whether you think it's done intentionally or not intentionally?
It could be both. Historically, women have used manipulation as a form of gaining power and control based on the social structure. So back in the day, when a woman needed something and needed a man to sign off on it, right? Because women couldn't own their own things, couldn't have access to banks, couldn't have access to certain things. Manipulation was a part of a way that a woman could gain power, essentially. And so that has been adopted over time. So the guilt is in a way adaptive to that, right? So it can be either conscious or unconscious, where someone, whether it's a family member, even someone else, it could be a pulling towards giving you responsibility for something that you're not really responsible for. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And so, what do you think about using maybe one's own guilt as motivation? Is that coming from a healthy place? Should there be different mechanism to motivate yourself? Or do you think that's okay? Because I have a girlfriend of mine who definitely says, I'm a mess right now, so I should be cleaning my apartment. So it starts from like a big put down and being very hard with oneself to say like, oh, I'm overweight, I should go to the gym. So it's the put down and the guilt that can create that action. But is it healthy to use it like that?
So I would say there's a better way. Guilt as an experience, as an emotional experience, can absolutely be motivating, and you can use it to motivate yourself. There's a better way in the sense of taking an objective step back. And like all things, right? Specifically with mental health, it's more about the practice of doing it than actually doing it once. It's the image that I usually go with for patients. It's the 1, 2, 3 parenting technique of timeout. It works only if you do it properly. The dynamic between the parent and the child, and in this case, the child would be the emotional experience. So the dynamic between the parent and the child is, if you're going to lose your shit, if you're not going to have patience with it, if you can't do the steps repetitively, placing the child in timeout has to be done repetitively in order for the child to recognize, oh, this is just something I'm going to have to do, right? It's the same with mental health stuff. So if the same emotional experience comes up and you want to have a different relationship to it, it's going to be the same thing. Being able to take an objective step back, and how often are you able to take that objective step back to do something else? So guilt is definitely something that you can take a step back from if it's practiced. And the already enough it's almost like we're talking about two different things, because the enough is a grasping for something outside of you that you're wanting to fill inside. And the guilt is an emotional experience.
And so that leads us to our question number 2. Is it toxic to cut off friends who can't handle my success?
I would say absolutely not. I would say absolutely not. It's not toxic to cut off friends who can't handle your success, because to some extent your friends are saying that they're not necessarily accepting of where you are or what you're doing or what you're focusing on or what you're prioritizing. And that gets balanced with, is there something for you to look at with your relationship to success that could be getting in the way of relationships? So that's kind of like the two sides of the same argument.
So what do you think are the first signs that maybe your friends are not your biggest supporter, especially if you're growing and becoming more and more successful? How can you pick up on it?
If there's jealousy, if there's comments of envy, if there is an experience of being put down. And it could be really small experiences that they don't have to be big or loud. You just kind of recognize them as, that's something new. I've never heard that from this person, or I've never experienced this before. So those are signs to be aware of, especially if you're good at listening.
Because I think there are always those cues, those subtleties, those microaggression. But it's very easy to overlook them, thinking, "Oh, but these are my friends. These are my people. Or these are my family." So maybe I'm understanding that wrong. But if it happens consistently over time, I agree with you. I think it's also okay to take a step back and rearrange, where your friends are in what I call like the food chain of friendships, where they how close you let them be in your tightest social circle.
Well, you know what, too, is it's interesting to be someone that is constantly changing. So I assume that you experience this as well. I'm in the business of constantly changing. I'm here to develop, I'm here to grow. I'm constantly taking in information. I'm learning from my environment. I'm learning from myself. I'm taking moments of silence. I'm meditating. I'm doing all the things, right? And whenever I get a chance to hear someone and kind of connect with someone, and I'm listening for other people's knowledge as well. There's a reason why we met, me and you, right here, right now. There's a reason why I come across people and I'm attuned and I'm paying attention. And when you're in the business of growth and development for the self, along with your business or success or whatever, you will constantly be changing. And that means the people that are in your life either hop on the train or get off.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. It's definitely not because you are interested in growing and evolving that everybody is in the same page.
Yeah. Which is hard too, because you see it. You're at this moment of time where these friends fit, and then you grow, and then they don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And there's beauty in that, right? We're in a world of atrophy. So, yeah.
I mean, I really think that not all relationships are meant to last, whether it's in love or in friendship. So I think friendships have seasons as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you have so many friends. You do. You are someone that I'm surprised at how many friends you have. It must be a whole business to maintain too.
I mean, you also hear me, it's amazing, but it takes time to nurture this relationship, and I will do that. But definitely when you are growing a business and you have also a big group of friends, my problems are great. My problem is that I have too many people having birthdays around me and I can't go to all. So I have friends that get pissed off that I don't go to social events. So, when sometimes I get like, oh, life is hard, I'm like, okay, you're getting too many invites. I think you're okay. But yeah, it's something that because for me, friendships have always been in my life the anchor, not necessarily my family that I can go up to or talk about everything. It's really friends. So I also have a lot of loyalty with people who've been with me for so many years and seen so many seasons of life. So it is hard to let go when in your 30s, in your 40s, to let go of certain relationship when you see that it just doesn't align anymore. It can feel like a mini delicate breakup.
Yeah. You gotta just like surgically remove that shit. Like I've
or avoid it. Like
I've
avoid
definitely
slowly.
done that.
Yeah.
I've actually sent a message like, "Hey, our time for this friendship has now expired. Thank you."
Damn. Wow.
Okay, I will add that friendships and making meaningful connections is absolutely invaluable to creating success, meaning that if you are trying to be successful alone, it's just not going to happen. I mean, it can happen, but only on a much smaller scale. If you bring in other people, it can happen on a much bigger scale.
Absolutely. And so here is our third question. And this one is close to my heart because I just went through it this year specifically. So I really want your take on it. So the question that I got is, why do I sabotage myself right before a breakthrough?
We are really fascinating as human beings because there's this fear of potential, and potential is something that is not yet materialized. Potential is almost like energy pre its actual form. So when there's this sense of stepping into something that you can experience as powerful, it shakes you a bit because you're recognizing almost two things at once. Wow, can I be this person that can do this thing? And the other thing would be, and if I can be that person, what else is there? Because then once you realize a potential, there's more potential, right? Because there's infinite potential to create, right? In the space of creative energy. So it's really a crazy thing to be able to acknowledge, can I step into this, be the person that it takes to do this thing, the thing that either I'm meant to be or the thing that I want to be, which is almost, you can almost see it as an inevitability if you're in your right trajectory. It almost feels, there's a sense of feeling effortless. Like, so now that I'm aligned with my heart's intention and I'm just moving forward one step at a time, and I'm in the brink of something that I have no idea what will happen next, which is the scary part. The scary part is you have no idea because you've never been here before. That's the breakthrough. You're breaking through something that's mundane, monotonous, the day-to-day, okay, I know this. And then all of a sudden you're breaking through into the absolute unknown. It's both petrifying and the most exhilarating thing ever. And you're straddling these two worlds at the same time. And then you can retreat back into the known. How did you experience that this year?
I was going to say, so what are the mechanisms to not do that? So for me, the situation was earlier in the year. I did a big marketing campaign. So I started getting a lot of requests to work from clients who wanted to work with me. And it was to the point where I was like, I don't want it. I don't want more clients. Like, this is going too fast. I'm scaling too fast. I went into, is it the possum? What is the animal who freezes and, when they're scared?
Freeze in place.
Yeah. So I tend to be avoidant and I tend to freeze when I panic. So I saw all the growth going my way, exactly what I wanted, and I just panicked and froze. So that's how I experienced it. So I went through it once. So now I will know how this time to react, to understand, like, this is the fear of, I think you call it the fear of potential. I think my therapist call it the fear of success. So I think now I would navigate it better if I have an influx like that, where I could be like, oh, this is amazing. Everybody wants to work with me. At the time I thought, oh my God, I can't onboard so many people at the same time. I am not adequate. I am not ready for this. Whereas now I would think very differently about it. I would feel like, I get to control how many people I work with. This is my business. I onboard how many I want, how little I want, and how I want it. People are asking for me. So I'm with that. I definitely felt I got bitch slapped once, and I'm like, now I know. So it was definitely a hard experience, but a great experience.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah. Yeah. It's the knowing that the unknown is the place where you can create. It's knowing that you can trust yourself to figure it out. Because so in a world filled with, anxiety, desire for control and fear and all these other things, there's a lot to retreat from, right? And the reality is we have no fucking clue. We don't know what's going to happen next. There's this idea that we can have the same life day after day. There's this idea that we can live the same day over and over and over again like a groundhog. And we can do that. To some extent, we try to do that. But in reality, yesterday has died and we can't get it back. And today is a new day. And being able to identify, okay, how can I personally make this a different day is the task. How can I take myself into the unknown? A lot of the work that I've been doing with meditation has been that. How do I take myself into the unknown? Because I know that the things that can bring me joy, happiness, and whatever, I can't even imagine them because they're bigger than that. So it's like more of that, really leaning into, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen next. Can I do that?
Being brave, being bold and brave.
Yeah.
And so here's the fourth question. Am I allowed to grieve the life I gave up to build this business? You're like, yes, girl, yes.
Yes. And also let go. So I have a pretty kind of strong personal experience with this. When I was in my graduate program, it was Fresno, California. I know Fresno isn't really California. Someone told me that later, and yeah, I didn't know.
I don't know that word, so you're talking to a French person here? No idea what this is. So no judgment.
Don't go to Fresno. I went to a doctoral campus. I went for a PhD in forensic psychology, and the whole kind of system of psychology is to really recognize what it is that you're bringing to the room. Well, technically to the chair as a dyad. Well, traditional, right? One-on-one therapy. So that you can be aware of what your stuff is to distinguish it from the other person's stuff. So in that deconstruction of, okay, what am I bringing to the table? There was this thing that I was holding on to for such a long time. And it was this fantasy of the woman that I would be had my parents not moved to the US. So I had this idea or this fantasy of Teresa Reyes Castillo, who never left Lima, Peru, and who she was. And I idealized her, and I thought she was, she was great. She was obviously, she's a psychologist down there. And, obviously she's doing X, Y, and Z. My family moved when I was 7 years old. I did not have control over moving to another country. So there was this idea of I never made this choice for myself to come to the US to live. Out of all of the places in the United States, we moved to East Haven, Connecticut, right? How did I end up in East Haven, Connecticut from Lima, Peru? I don't know. But this idea of her kept coming up, and I held on to her because I loved her. I wanted her to be this amazing woman down there. And then I realized it was just like I was fracturing. I was idealizing something that wasn't here. I recognized that I was kind of going into this concept of having full control over a life that was never lived, because the fantasy is I have, all of the control of what happens to her, this like hypothetical me. And I got to the point where I recognized I actually like my life. And the more that I leaned into, I really like my life, the more I could let her go. Because she could not have ever happened if I like my life today. So if I'm happy today, right now, she was never meant to be. And she could never have been. So to some extent, I would say, yes, grieve. And also, thank God that didn't happen, right? Because now you're here and now you have this badass business, and you would not have been here if you had done something else. And that's more of a embracing your present, embracing your current reality. And if you decide, but actually, I want to close down my business and start a family, do that, right? But that takes presence and active, conscious decision making today in order to make the tomorrow different.
How different do you think the Teresa who had stayed there would have been? Because you're saying a psychologist in Peru, you're a psychologist in New York City, excuse me. Like, what in your fantasy, like how different?
Well, I have this idea I would have always kind
Being a
of followed
princess in Inca?
psychology.
I see. I see the fantasy.
I feel like I would always have followed psychology. I feel like I can't imagine myself not being a psychologist, but that aside, there are things that are fundamental to life in Peru that are just different from here. There would have been more of a connection to external family, like extended family. I would have grown up closer to them. I would have different goals for sure. I mean, in Peru, there's a big presence in like Roman Catholic Church. A lot of my siblings were in like Catholic Church youth groups and things that are embedded in the culture that are just fundamentally different. My siblings also grew up where there were a lot of kids the same age that just kind of got together all the time and played outside. And there was that external community that we didn't have when we came here. So there were those kinds of differences that my siblings still talk about with a lot of nostalgia and fondness that I feel to some extent I missed out on. Well, that I felt like I missed out on.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to say, yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I can let that go.
So the next question is about a topic that comes up a lot, very often, especially in the coaching sessions that I have with women. It's around money. So why does making money feel dirty even though I worked for it?
So that's going into morals and ethics of what money is and how it's handled within the home, but also in the external environment, micro and macro. I mean, to be honest, you can plug in sex as well, right? Money feels dirty, sex feels dirty. It's the two things that, it's so fascinating. It's the two things that most people go into couples therapy for. It's the two things that make psychologists lose their license. I mean, I'm sure there's more correlations about money and sex that there could possibly that we could come up with given all the time in the world, but there's something that is taught but also handed down, almost like embedded. And I'll give you an example that's very strange so that we can start to play around with this concept. So I just listened to something not too long ago, like maybe a couple days ago. The rats in these experiments get all of our curiosities go impact the rats. Anyway, there was a rat study out of a zillion rat studies that have ever been made where they introduced a scent that the rat liked, lavender in this case. And they did a mild shock to this poor rat that was innocently sniffing lavender. Can you imagine these sadistic people? Anyway, 7 generations later, the descendants of these rats could not smell lavender, meaning they were afraid of it. So this is kind of the funky things we don't know about. So that's just a smell, and it's just a rat. Like the size of the brain of a rat, right? So we're talking about God knows what happened to your generations, one generation above, two generations, your great grandparents, and how they viewed money. There's something that seeps into us over time. However, that because we have no way of classifying or quantifying consciousness, and we have no idea what the mind is, right? So the money feeling dirty may not have anything to do with the person experiencing it. So then this would be a call to action to make a decision on if there's an ideal version of you, and that ideal version of you want to have X relationship with money, I would say go into what that is, whatever X is. A positive relationship, a healthy relationship, a relationship in which you are abundant, or whatever the classification of the relationship that you want to have with money, and work on that, because this feeling of money being dirty might not even have come from you. And it could be something that has just been passed down, or you've watched, or it's been modeled. So I can go into 100 different ways of slicing this. The piece that I would say is any relationship that you currently have, you can change. So whatever you want that to look like, focus on that.
So what do you think is a methodology? Let's say you have a unhealthy relationship to money. What would you say are the first 3 steps that someone can take in order to improve their relationship?
Okay, so first would be identifying what you want that ideal relationship to be. The other would be, can you align with that? Meaning, align with it can be in the sense of, can you view it as something that another person can have? Meaning, I think Joe is good. I think people are good. And then bringing the association to the self, like, I think we as people are good. So it's being able to acknowledge it from an external point, so it's not the self, and then trying to inch it in to the self. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The third would be to feel it, to have the experience of, okay, if I can imagine that I have a positive relationship to money, and it might even help to pretend that money is a person, because that creates a idea that you're in relation to someone. And in this case, it could be something. And if you have this idea of money being a person, how do you want to feel when you're in a good relationship with this person called money? And can you feel that now? So those would be 3 things.
Those are great 3 steps. Thank you for sharing. Now we're up to the 6th question. And this one is also one that's close to my heart. I swear those are not my questions, but they could very well be. It's interesting how you mentioned that early on in your studies, you had to do an exercise. So you have to detach like your fantasy from, that was part of your studies, like understanding yourself very well. Also, I assume so that it would not affect, like the human would not affect how you're treating people. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
So I'm also thinking that as a podcast host, sometimes I'm asking questions. I'm like, but are they questions from my audience or are they my questions?
I mean, both. It could be both.
Could be both. I don't think money is dirty. I think money is amazing. My relationship to it, maybe not the best, but I think money is brilliant.
Yes! Bring it!
So, Dr. T, about imposter syndrome. Is it normal to feel like a fraud when everyone calls me successful? And again, I'm using me, but this is not my question. It's a question from the audience.
Well, okay. It's interesting. So a fraud, you almost want to be able to challenge the fraud piece with how did you get here? Because it didn't just happen overnight. So I would challenge the fraud piece in the event that you're not actually a fraud, right? The piece that I would challenge is can you trace back your steps to where you're standing? Okay, yeah, I went to elementary school and I went to high school and and I did this and I really did well on the exam and that I feel can be grounding into where you're standing. That's one piece. The success is an external appraisal, so people are telling you, hey, you're successful. That I view that as there's two different things that I think about when I listen to that. One is someone else is saying that you are, which is like a perception of someone external to you, which is also an interesting thing. It could be validating. It could be a moment for you to reflect on where you're standing and how you got to stand there. And the other could be an association with success, meaning I'll bring myself into it. For me, it could feel finite, meaning, oh, okay, so I did all of the things and now what? Does that mean it's the end? Have I reached a point of the race where I crossed the threshold and now what? That could be playing into it. For me, that's something I hear too. And my pushback on that is like, wait, but I'm not done. I still have so much stuff to do still. And something that has helped me personally is view it as something that success is something I'm standing in and I'm taking more steps and I'm taking that stance with me so that it's a moving thing, so that it's a fluid thing, so that I'm embodying it, so that it's not a stagnant thing and a place that I get to and then what, right? So I've actually heard this imposter syndrome a lot, and it started probably 2-3 years ago. I had a lot of people coming into my practice with this concept of imposter syndrome, and sometimes I wonder if it's a disconnection from what the other person sees and what the person's experience is, which is I'm just sitting here answering emails. You're seeing something that you're seeing the critical part that I play in blah blah blah. And I'm just seeing I just responded to an email. You know, like there's that disconnect of the other person has a vantage point that is vastly different from your own. Do you feel successful?
In many ways, yes. In others, no. In my personal life, yes. I feel I'm on fire. Have a lot of love, a lot of friends. I'm excited about what I do. I feel I find adventurous and rich life. Am I successful in business? No. I don't know if I was really cocky when I started this whole adventure because I thought I would be a multi-billionaire by now and I'm not. So I'm beating myself up for it. So in business, no, I'm definitely not where I thought I was going to be. So I don't feel successful in business, but in life I feel successful otherwise. I feel that I live a very rich life. How about you? Back at you.
Yeah, for a long time I didn't know whether it was just like a me thing, but I had always this idea that, well, sure, I guess you could call it success. I have a nice place. I live in New York. I have this practice. I have an and there's an internal drive for me to continue to put things out there, right? So I'm writing, I'm podcasting, I'm meeting people, I'm actually genuinely networking with people, which is a nice change. I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm all over the place. And it's great, right? And there's a part of me that keeps going with, you haven't even started. This is just the beginning. So the success piece, like I said, for me, I had to recalibrate that to be something I take with me wherever I'm going. Almost like saying, integrity. It's not something you do, oh yeah, I did that yesterday. I'm not I check. It's more something I take with me, and it's not necessarily there have been moments where I have felt like I have fully embodied it. And yeah, and not necessarily those moments haven't lasted, I guess is what. Yeah. I still have more to do. It keeps kind of coming,
Yeah, because I think the dark side of having goals that we set up for ourselves, especially when it's quantifiable or, when it's milestones like that, is that when you reach them, then you're content for 2 seconds. It doesn't last. It's like, okay, I'm there. And then what? Because also maybe there's this idea that everything will feel different when I reach this milestone and when I have that much in my bank account or when I live there or when I've had, those fantasy deadlines, milestones that we set up for ourselves. And then nothing happens when you reach them.
Right. I feel like it brings us back to the grasping. There's something that we're recognizing or seeing outside of us that we're kind of trying to attain that is essentially unattainable because there's an experience internally that we're wanting to have that we're seeing outside of ourselves.
And finding a way to already live it without what we were talking about the other day, being able to reach that state and ground ourselves in that feeling, even if we haven't reached that milestone, but living it as a truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So what your audience might not know is we're actually friends. The other day when I was at your place. Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of everywhere on my social. People, I think that's a hint.
Yeah.
And that leads me to our 7th question, Dr. T. Why do I need everyone to like me if I'm supposed to be a boss?
So that's an inherent one of the inherent drives that we have as humans. Like we want to be liked, we want to be accepted, we want to be a part of the group, the tribe, and that is so deep in our makeup as human beings, and it just gets transferred over, right? Oftentimes we don't like the idea of not being liked, and that's whether it's conscious or unconscious. And the dynamics change when there's a hierarchy, and being able to acknowledge that that hierarchy is in place for certain things to flow. That hierarchy is in place for certain things to have structure and have a container. And it is beneficial for that structure and container to be intact. So same with a parent being a friend to a child. A 5-year-old doesn't need a friend as a parent. They need a parent. 3-year-old does not need a friend as a parent. They need a parent. So it's the same kind of dynamic, and being able to acknowledge what makes a good boss and that kind of system that creates a container for all of you to have a successful business. Because also, I imagine at the end of the day, you want these people to have jobs as well. And in order for them to have those jobs, all the roles have to be filled successfully. Being a boss comes with stuff, like you have to be able to be clear. You have to be able to give directive. You have to be able to manage people and express explicit instructions. And the benefit to being clear and direct and concise is not having confusion, chaos, ambivalence, right? All of these things can create an environment that is not healthy for anyone to thrive in. So in the moments when the person is feeling like, okay, now I have to give this person feedback or tell them XYZ, have the understanding of it will be to my benefit and the other person's benefit for the communication to be simple, clear, concise, and direct. Because there is no interpreting those things. It's just kind of like, okay, it's there. And being able to look at where in your life you can get validation and connection and all of those things in an equal playing field. So with your peers, if it's a structural thing at work.
Mm-hmm. And so our next question is about guilt. And it is, am I a bad mom or partner for loving my business more than family time?
No. Well, so I think so, and maybe I'm not the right person to answer this question, and I will be very explicit about that. I don't believe in bad, and I don't believe in good, and I don't believe in, I guess, evil and good or whatever, however you want to slice those. I don't believe in those things because those are essentially appraisals of the thing. So you're either a mom or you're not a mom. The good or the bad before the mom is an appraisal done by either you, others, your children, right. So that appraisal first is subject to change, and it's also a combination of moments across time. So, I mean, just because, today, Wednesday, you took your kid to the doctor for a checkup, that one act doesn't classify you as a good mom or a bad mom. It's one moment. So it's like a culmination of moments leading to an appraisal. And is that appraisal done by the self or by others? And if you zoom out, you're looking at the enjoyment of the thing. And it could be that motherhood or partnerhood is the thing that squeezes you more, meaning there are things in life that create avenues for us to grow. So there are moments where we experience pressure, and that pressure creates triggers, right, that facilitate opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for growth. And I assume that based on the question, that the person might be experiencing more opportunities for growth, personal, internal growth, in motherhood or partnerhood, because they are loving their business. So I am in love with my business. Why? I leave home. I go to work. People listen to me. I tell people what to do. And people say, yes, ma'am. And they do what I tell them to do. Things flow easily. I have money. I do things with it. So I imagine this person has opportunities for growth with their children who don't care how much their income is or what they say or whether they abide. Again, with the partnership, I mean, sometimes I think there's nothing harder than being in a relationship with another adult, okay? And living with someone else and, whatever. But I feel like whenever my book comes out, you'll see why. So I would strongly, if not aggressively, push back on the bad. And I would wonder or be curious, how are these roles presenting me with time and time again an opportunity to grow? Because maybe my business is just going well. Or maybe my business is a problem I understand how to fix. Human relationships don't work that way. As much as engineers would love to fix their relationships with humans, there's no way of fixing. So it's more of a how do I take advantage of this opportunity for growth?
And reframe it. And now we are hitting our last two questions. So number 9 is, why do I feel more anxious after hitting my goals than before?
I think I want to know before what? Like just over time, why do I feel more anxious after hitting my goals than before? So does that mean that I've met some goals and now I'm anxious about meeting new goals? I'm trying to understand the question. I'm like working through it. Okay.
This is me. The purple, it's me. Welcome to New York City.
Where is that coming from? So if you've reached some goals and you're concerned or have an experience of anxiety for reaching more goals, it's almost like what you described just earlier of, my goodness, can I do this? Is this too much? Is this too big? Am I taking a bite too big to chew? And you don't know, which is the thing that creates the relationship with the experience of anxiety is not knowing, and that desperate desire to have control over the not knowing. And you just don't know. So the hitting more goals is something that you can lean into with the experience of anxiety. When I talk about anxiety, I'm very particular about the way in which I describe it, because I don't want to ever say the person is anxiety. So when I say the experience of anxiety, I'm talking about a state that is fluid and that can change, and that you have an experience of it that moves, just like being tired. You can be tired, and at some point you can have the experience of not being tired. So when we're talking about the experience of anxiety, being able to take that experience and take action towards the next goal, knowing that your experience with anxiety will change. And it can do one of two things. It can go up and it can go down. And you have no idea what it's going to do. Going back to the trust, being able to trust yourself to handle that, because it's not the first time you've experienced it. So if you think back and you recall all of the times before, today, whenever today is for you, you will likely have had an experience of anxiety that's mild, that's moderate, and that's severe, and that has changed over time. And each one of those times, today you are living proof that you've survived it. So being able to acknowledge and recognize, okay, maybe I have an experience of more of this experience, right, of anxiety. that's because there's more you don't know. Pulling back the conversation about breakthrough is there's this idea of pushing back past a threshold that is very exciting, and that excitement also mirrors the experience of anxiety. So yay, you're into the unknown and you're in for exciting times.
That's the good news about it, and how to reframe it and just basically roll with it. And so we're reaching our final question number 10. Is it selfish to want support without having to ask for it?
We are actually coded for that. So, infants, and if you want to view it from this lens, like true narcissists are infants because they have no experience of the separation between other and the self, and that's where the dynamic comes from. Infants cannot tell you what they need, right? And they can't express to you what they want and all the things. So when we all were born, we wanted all of the giants to do all of the things and make it better. Just do all the things and make it better. Or else I'm going to scream bloody murder until you figure it out and make it better. So it's not selfish. It's just how every single human has entered the planet. And recognizing that that's an internal state that we want satiated, and acknowledging that there's that part of us that is still there, and being able to work with it. And working with it would mean that you become one of the giants for this baby, the internal, the self as an internal experience of primitive emotional states, right? And you get to decide how you support yourself with those. And sometimes we don't know how we need that support, which is the reason for outsourcing it, right? Hey, I'm feeling not okay, whatever not okay is. And I really want you to figure it out for me, partner. And a lot of the times it's also us not knowing what we need because of, I don't know, like the reason why I use not okay is it's like a catch-all for all the things. It could be upset, it could be frustration, it could be mood shift, it could be a low, it could be whatever that not okay is. There can be some outsourcing for that to someone else, because sometimes we just don't fucking know. I don't know what's wrong. Can you figure it out and fix it? And being able to consider yourself one of the giants in the scenario, and taking care of the internal infant. And going through, are you thirsty? Are you fed? Are you clean? But it would have to be.
Are you clean?
It would have to be, an adult conversation about those things. So is it selfish to want those things? No. It's the way in which we're brought into the world. There's a way of being adaptive, meaning if you know that there's a set of things that would help you, and you can tell your partner beforehand, or tell your support system or friendships or family, during this time I need X, then there's a way of facilitating that without having to say it over and over. So then when you have a friend that doesn't like to celebrate their birthday, you can just come in and say, hey, I know you don't like to celebrate your birthday, but it's coming. So maybe we should do something. And that creates an avenue for the people that actually support you to come in and support you in the way that you need it. It's more of a acknowledging where that's coming from and how to work with it and be adaptable,
Do you know people who don't like celebrating their birthdays?
C'est toi.
Yeah, for the backstory, I hate celebrating my birthdays. And this year, Teresa literally forced me. She says, rain or shine, you're not going to have a choice anyway. So that's for the backstory.
I was going to show up to your house with some pizza.
Yeah, this woman just didn't leave me a choice, and it turned out to be great. So thanks for the push. I think for a lot of people, birthdays can be a bit triggering, or not necessarily like feel good, and also it's a little weird to celebrate oneself. I still feel very much that way. I think every year is going to be a thing that I don't want to celebrate, but I think it's nice to recognize as well that maybe as it's happening, it feels like I don't want to go through that. But actually, it is super nice to just be surrounded by people you love on your birthday. Even I have to admit that.
Well, also it's feeling the presence of other people there, even when it's a interesting time, like
Mhm.
the passage of time. I will say that everyone has a unique relationship to,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
time dies, and we're, like I mentioned, right? Like we're in a world of atrophy. So every moment is experienced as the end of something. We kind of separate from that with this idea of the sameness, but there is that experience of, okay, another year has passed.
Another year closer to death. And that's how we wrap up this episode. I think this is really important, and thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your insights, because I think that can be really valuable to talk about these things, those hard subjects, because the more we speak of them, and the less shameful, the less hard. If today's questions resonated with you, please share this episode with another high achieving woman who needs to hear it. The more we talk about these things openly, the less power they have over us. Teresa, thank you so much for being on another episode of Parlez-Vous CEO and a special mental health series.
Thank you for having me.
And join us again next time for another episode in 2 weeks with Dr. T again.
Thanks for listening to Parlez-Vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.